Well, good afternoon and welcome to this week's edition of Drive Facebook Live. I'm Bob Spitz, your host, along with my partner, Tony Whistler. And we have also Larry Monroe, my old compadre, with us. And our special guest today is Gregg. And Rich, welcome. And why don't you introduce yourself to the audience, let them know who you are, where you're from, the kind of shop you operate, all that jazz.
All right, good to see you guys. Yeah, my name is Gregg. I'm from Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, about an hour west of Toronto. I've got a six-bay shop, four techs, two service writers, and one manager. And I made it to Master Elite in through the Drive program, and I don't go to the shop much anymore. Pretty much retired, so life is good.
Yeah, you're keeping that KPI that Larry and I used to joke about and keep with certain clients is number of days in the shop. And we had one, he was down to 54 days a year.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
It was an upside down graph.
That's an upside down graph. Yeah, exactly.
Probably somewhere around there or even less. I couple days a month I go in. So
well, good for you.
Yeah, it's probably a graph your managers are keeping.
Yeah, well, they've got a big picture of me up on the back of the shop door, and it says "banned" right across it.
Banned.
Very nice.
That's right. That's right.
I don't like
the theme of today's episode is all about the certification levels, and Larry is our gatekeeper on that, and why these certification levels are, and how they help a shop, and it's just one of the great games to play. And gosh, Rich, you're at the top of the ladder there at Master Elite. So let's talk about that a little bit. Larry, why don't you kick this off? What are these all about?
Well, tell us who you are.
Yeah, I've been around Drive for a couple of weeks now. Since 1994, I showed up, and then Bob figured I better come in there real quick to save the day because we needed some New York influence. He showed up a couple of weeks later. And we found early on that it's really helpful to shop owners to have a format of some kind, checklists of some kind, project checklists of some kind. And we started off having that for workshops, but then we developed certification levels. And in these days, they kind of align with stages, but they start off with simple skills and they're very easy to follow. When you first come on the program, there's a 6 to 8 week checklist that we want you to follow just to kind of get you the basics in place. But if you follow these checklists, they will walk you up the line in terms of your skills as a manager, which most of you need because you're thinking like technicians and you're thinking like service advisors, and you need to learn a new hat. So these checklists will do that in a very orderly fashion, no matter where your shop is at. The first one is effective, and the second one is professional. The next one after that is master, and the next one after that is Master Elite. And by following the checklist and doing the do of the skills that you're learning at the workshops, you actually start seeing a different shop in front of you, and you start realizing your viewpoint has totally changed from being a technician or a service advisor to being a very savvy businessman. So that's kind of what it's about. They're in place, they're there to help you grow, but let's hear it from Rich. If you can take it on the Wayback Machine and kind of tell us some stories back in the day when your various coaches were chasing you around and trying to get you on the phone and make the Canadian do anything.
That's right.
I remember some of those conversations.
Tell
us your side of the story.
All right, I've been with Drive just over 8 years. Back when I started, I mean, I had 2 bays. It was me and an apprentice. I didn't even have a waiting room. I had a dirty old chair that sat in the corner behind my toolbox. And when I started with Drive, my coach back then said, well, send all 50 pictures of the shop inside and out. And the first thing was, you know, she said, we're going to start you off big. You need to get out of this building. You need to get out where you are. And I was like, man, I can't believe this. I, you know, like huge changes right off the bat. But, you know, it's like anything. You can pretty much accomplish anything if you have a detailed plan and you have the courage to stick to it. If you keep sticking to it and you keep coming back to your plan, and you know your plan, you're always adjusting it, always changing it. But I think that's the secret of the secret sauce with Drive. Like they have the formula, but you know they don't give it to you all at once because it's too much to handle. And a lot going through the process, there was a lot of parts of Drive that I pushed back on. I didn't think made sense to me. You know, it just really was counterintuitive. And I was spending a lot of time, doing a lot of homework, but it was all important stuff. Right? It's all stuff you had to learn from being a tech to, you know, then getting into, you know, the service. Right? I mean, I was wearing all the hats. I was doing everything. But I was working like crazy, and you know, I was making a good living, but was working like crazy. So, you know, once I started to follow the plan, and you know, I've had 3 coaches over the years, and everyone's been great. They've all been different. They've all had their strengths, and which also I think is a really good aspect of Drive, that they change it up. You know, they change it up once in a while. But when you follow the plan, it's totally doable. And I put my trust in the system, in the plan, that it would work. I just had to follow it. You know, obviously, I think one of the biggest pushbacks that most everybody pushes back on is hiring a service advisor. It seems like this is a job that's not going to pay for itself. Trust me, it pays for itself. Once you get one, you'll want 2 because you'll realize that they make you money. All right. And, you know, once I got out of wrenching and I got out of, you know, I kind of scaled back and just started doing diagnostics, but I stopped working on the cars and started focusing on the business, which is what the plan does, which is what the steps do. They get you, you know, focusing on working on the business. Things really started to take off, you know, and, and I was like, wow, okay, what I thought was going to bankrupt me is actually making me money, you know. But you
It's
can't.
counterintuitive, isn't it?
It is, and you know, when you're in it and you're counting all the dollars and you're doing all the work, you know, you can't see the forest for the trees, I guess is the kind of the saying, right? You're in the middle of it, you're so thick into it, and all you can think of is, man, I can't pay a service writer, you know, $65,000 a year or 60 grand a year, whatever. Like, how can I possibly afford that? But once you get somebody in, and I sent my service advisors to Drive for controlling the front, service advisor school, and teaching them to learn how to sell and deal with people and get the process down. And once they do that, and you have a really solid workflow program. So we use Auto Vitals, we're a digital shop, and we use Protractor as our shop management system. And they integrate beautifully together. The service advisors, their job is the same every day. It's the same process. They do the same things, same actions. It's just a different customer, different car, different job coming up on the screen. But the actions are the same. So once they get that workflow down, again, it's part of the system, and you've drilled it and practiced it, and they know it, you don't have to babysit them anymore, right? And I did the same thing with my manager, teaching him all the back end stuff. And, you know, then I started to just find out that I was at the shop. And when I was at the shop, I was being told by everybody else what to do. I go do this, go do that. And I thought, I feel like I'm doing everybody else's job. So I just one day said, I'm not coming in anymore. And you guys are running me ragged. And I stopped coming in. And you know, I checked in with my manager, and I have the shop operating software on my computer at home, so I can always check the numbers. I look at the KPIs. I do my reports. I'm in the top 20, so I do my reports every Monday and have a conversation with my manager. Again, it's all part of the formula, right? But when you're at the beginning of it, you can't imagine getting to the end of it because the road in between seems impossible. Like
Yeah.
you've got to have
That's one of the reasons why you put the checklist together, because of exactly what you just described, Rich, is we're taking a bunch of guys that are technicians, some of them service advisors, and we're teaching them a whole different skill set. So it's kind of, all right, trust us, do this checklist, do this effective checklist, learn how to write weekly plans. And oh, well, I carry it around in my head. Well, let's change that. Let's actually put it at least on a Big Chief scratch pad, and eventually we're going to use the computer.
Because if you weren't there, how would it all run?
That's it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, of your 20 group, you got to guess who this is, Rich. He said he just climbed out of the water to learn something new from his friend Rich.
Oh, I know who that is.
Yeah, I do too. That's probably Starkey.
No. Let him guess.
He's watching.
Oh, good
Yeah.
old John. Yeah, well, he's you know, there's some guys in the top 20 that you know, pull really hard numbers, like way better than me. My goal was to be retired so I could pursue other things.
Right.
But these guys like you know, John Starkey and Travis and Gabe and his wife from Oregon, and Travis is in Montana, and Kelsey and Brandon in Colorado. You know, and of course John, he's out in Hawaii. These are heavy hitters. These guys really pull hard numbers. Same with David out of the Bronx, or
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. He's
Yeah.
in Brooklyn.
Well,
Man.
see, they got there by following these checklists, because I've seen them grow. I've
Yeah,
seen them all grow,
amazing.
and they were exactly the kind of, I mean, if you saw pictures of David Goldsmith's old shop under the Brooklyn Bridge,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little tiny gas station, and
And
he's
he was paying
grown.
about $3,000 a month in parking tickets.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's grown by following these checklists, just like you have, I mean, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the viewpoint is you start learning to follow the systems and follow the certification route that will take you up through the stages. And, you're kind of going, they're kicking me out. Oh, and then the shop does better because
Put
you
it
got
down.
off the front
I had a
counter.
question about that. Do you mind if I ask a quick question of Rich? Very often an owner will create a shop that's essentially in stage 4, which means, like you described, you don't have to be there anymore. Everything runs. And then they walk back into the space and they can meddle with it, and they can create a situation where they push the shop back out of stage 4 because they keep messing with things. But what you described, I thought was fascinating, because you didn't say, I kept coming in and bypassing people and pushing them out of the way. I just kept getting ran by my own team until I didn't want to do it anymore. And then you left. And I heard when he said he was letting the team run him, I knew you'd made it. Like, you'd made it.
Yeah, honestly, I go into the shop and I look at some stuff. And I'm like, oh God, you can't charge that much for that. Get away from the computer.
That's
It's
right.
already sold.
Yeah.
It's already been sold. Just leave. So I do. But I mean, like I say, some of the guys in the top 20 are really, really cranking it out. And these guys are real heavy hitters. Like, their stats are amazing. But they're still involved in the business. They're there every day. And I could probably wring it out more if I want to, but I just, I'm happy with the way things are. The shop's really profitable. We're hitting our targets. And as long as I don't have stress from it, I just kind of let it sail. And one of the things I thought of when we were at the top 20, we were at Kevin and Chris's shop in Lincoln, Nebraska. Beautiful shop. It's got like 11 bays. It's just gorgeous, tons of room. But him and his wife are still there working, and they're getting away a little bit, but their goal is to kind of be able to do lots more traveling and step away. And the operation of their shop, I'm just like, just step away. Like, your team is ready. All you are doing is micromanaging. Just step away, let the team do what you've trained them to do, and don't worry about the shop. Just look at the numbers. And I can look at my numbers because of the training with Drive. I can tell where the problem is if we have a car count issue, then I need to be marketing. If we've got an issue with low average RO, then I need to know, are the techs doing full inspections, or is my front end not selling? It's easy to know where the problem lies once you know how to read all the KPIs, right? So that's what I do. I just kind of look at that stuff and let it happen. And if there's something that I got to get involved with, then my manager lets me know. But
Well, you know, you make a good point, and I think there's a number of shops that struggle with it on their way to stage 4, and that's learning to, one, trust their employees,
mhm,
let them do their job, and have the systems dialed in and everybody drilled in on how the systems work.
yeah, yeah, like you know, like I say, some of the you know, a lot of guys are really doing it and far more successful than me. Like my goal was to be able to retire at 53, and I did.
Well,
But
then that's successful.
that was that's successful. I have other ventures that bring me income, but you know, just the growth of some of these other shops too in the top 20, it's unbelievable. Like
Wow.
really, the sky is the limit. Like you know, like John Starkey, right? He's like fantastic. He's taken over, you know, he's had businesses on the island are closing down and he just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, right? Just keeps, you know, running it, crunching the numbers, taking control
Yeah.
of the top. And I know he likes to do lots of surfing, but
Yeah, he keeps track of that. He has a graph. Well done surfing hours. That's
yeah,
Yeah.
you know, hours in the water. But you know, it's an interesting thing of what you're describing, Rich. Um, as you do these, if you follow these checklists, your viewpoints start changing and you start shifting. You start getting
absolutely.
broader concepts of what life you really want to have when you get to stage 4, master, master elite. Those are the checklists. And everybody's got a different definition. Some might want other locations. Travis is just finishing up a beautiful expansion on his shop.
Mhm.
But it gives you the freedom to choose that. Because some people still, they think, well, you know, I don't know what I'm going to do if I stay away from the shop. So you have guys that stay in the shop because they still like the game,
Yeah,
or
absolutely.
because their crew hasn't said, okay, you're fired.
Get out.
You need to go find, you know,
Yeah.
go move to Atlanta and start another shop and get out of our hair, you know. But it gives you the freedom of deciding what is your stage 4 and what is that game outside with your life vacation. I remember when I was chasing you, Rich, on the Master Elite checklist, and you go, well, I'm going to be camping for the next 13 days, so we don't have a lot of cell connection out here. So, you know, I'll get around to the rest of the checklist when I get back. And I'm going, you know, here I am watching the
Time
clock and trying
crunch.
to get this done. But you're doing exactly what this was designed to do by following these checklists, is get that freedom of whatever game you want to do. Investments, good. You want to buy a ranch in Montana, great. You know, I knew one guy that wanted to have a marina, but it gives you the freedom and the cash flow to invest in that. And that's the beauty of, as you described, the system.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not going to go from A to B without any struggles, right? There's going to be struggles along the way, but you know, you don't start at A and you don't try to jump, you know, jump it along, right? You've got to just follow the process, right? And and you can make it happen. Some guys made it happen a lot faster than I did. Um, some people have taken a lot longer, right? I mean, there's people in drive that haven't pushed, and you know, they haven't made master or master elite yet, or they're, you know, they're happy with where they are. You know, if you're aggressive and you want to get to a certain stage, drive will take you there, but you have to put the work in. You know,
Did going for the master's certificate or a certification, did that inspire you more? Like at that moment when you were there, like I'm working with my consultant, I'm doing all these things, but now there's this, hey, let's go for this certification. Did that when you got on board with that, what did that do?
yeah. Once I got that first award in my hand, I was like, hey, this is nice. I actually felt like, you know, I earned this. Nobody gave this to me. I I earned it. You
You
know,
certainly did.
I did the hard work and I earned it. So I felt really good about that. And it's kind of actually a first in my life. I've never been someone for accolades or anything like that. But going to the, you know, the drive expos, um, I remember the first one I ever went to and watching somebody else get awarded masters. I was moved. I was like, wow, that, you know, and his speech, I thought, man, someday I'm going to be there. And I, you know, I was at that point like too scared to even have staff meetings. I didn't want to hold staff meetings. And I remember talking to guys, masters and top 20, right? Because you see them walking around the expo with the the badges on, so you know who to approach, right? And I talked to guys like, well, how do you run a staff meeting? And these simple things that were roadblocks to me back then, but just natural. Like I dreaded to have to hire somebody or fire somebody, and now I fired a couple people last month, hired 2 more. Shop's running even better. I've got a fantastic crew now. You learn that these things aren't roadblocks. Like they're all manageable, and you take it step by step. So the checklists and moving from stage to stage to stage, it's a process, right? You don't jump over any of it. You have to go through it all. When I was doing what Cassie was taking me through the apprentice program, I found that immense amount of work, very, very hard, very tasking, writing these reports, which I never did. I never tracked any of that stuff. But once she made me do it, and I was writing all these reports every week, and it started to sink in. It became a habit, and it became, going from an absolute chore to an absolute necessity, right? So I wouldn't go a week without writing. That's the same thing as being in the top 20. I do my numbers, I write my reports, I look at, where we're weak, what has to change, what has to happen. So even though I'm not there, I still know what's going on in the shop. That's the power of the process, right? If you don't commit to it, you won't reach that goal. If you deviate from it, you're just making the journey longer. If you just dig in and just really learn every aspect of it. And anybody that's new to drive, highly recommend going to the expos and getting involved with people that you see with that badges on that say master or master elite or top 20. Talk to these people, make connections, because we've all done it, we've all been through it. And like I say, Drive just doesn't hand out these awards like because you've been paying them for years. Drive makes you do the work, right? Once you earn it, you've got to prove you earn it. And I feel like I've proved that I earned Master Elite, even though guys have turned way bigger numbers than me. My goal was to not be too involved with the shop, and I've reached that goal. So
you bring up a good point, Rich, and I want to jump in here before we run out of time, because one of the objections I've heard from shops is, well, I just run a small operation. I don't think I'm really qualified to be a master of shop management, right? And as you've been pointing out, it really doesn't matter what size shop you are, does it?
No. I mean, I do over $1.5 million a year in sales. There's guys in the top 20, way over 2, 3, 3.5 million and more, right? They're much bigger shops than me. They've got 14 bays, 12 bays. They're really pumping it out. But that's not, the system isn't about getting you as big as possible, unless that's your goal, right? You've got to communicate that to your advisor and say, like in the beginning, I wanted to have multiple shops, but as I got more successful and made more money and then got into other things, I'm like, I don't really want that. I was just about to buy another shop right when COVID hit, and then I kind of backed off. And after that, and I just thought, I've got other things I'd rather be doing. But if your goal is to get big, and some guys don't want multiple shops, but they want one really big successful shop, you can do it. Like you just absolutely, the numbers, whether you've got 4 techs or you've got 14 techs, the operation is the same. The system is the same. The process, it's all the same. You just got to keep, following it and pushing, right? Like there's no free ride, but
No.
if you want to do it, you can do it. And that's the thing that I found with Drive is the commitment to helping is there. And it was funny that when I was at the top 20 meeting, I was talking to a lot of the other guys that some of them have been with Drive a long time. Some have actually left Drive and come back. Some have left Drive and actually gone to competitors of Drive and still come back. And I said, "Why'd you come back?" And the unanimous kind of what people were saying.
Response?
Yes, unanimous response. Thank you. Was Drive cares, and the other groups that they'd tried didn't care. They didn't push. They took your money, but they didn't push you. And I got a lot of push from all three of my advisors, without a doubt. I mean, I don't have problems taking risks and taking chances. And I'd bought out a dealership, Saab and Suzuki dealership that was going under. I bought all their equipment and their customer base. I spent $74,000 on that, and I gained like 600 new customers like that, and I had that paid off in just months. It was a no-brainer. But these sort of decisions along the way, Drive helps you with, right? You're always going to run into things that are seem too hard to make the decision, or maybe you don't have the courage to make the decision. And I don't think I would have. I don't think I definitely would not be where I am today if I hadn't been with Drive, because even though I don't mind taking risks and doing things like that, there's probably things that I would have really. I just don't know if I'd have gone outside my comfort zone, and that's what you have to do, right? You have to go outside your comfort zone, and that's
Yep.
where the good stuff happens. When you push yourself past that comfort level, you know, if you're following the process, things will happen. And I know, like Travis just building this huge addition, and he was talking to me about the mortgage that he's getting into and stuff like that. He's so successful. His shop runs so incredibly well that it's a non-issue, right? I know it's a big number. He's suddenly facing with this big number of, hey, I got to pay this massive mortgage on this huge addition I've just done, but it'll be a non-issue because he's so successful. He'll just grow, and he'll just, a year from now, he won't even be thinking about it, right? And again, that's that power of, you got a plan, and you have a process, and you follow it, and that's like Travis has pushed himself outside of his comfort zone because now he's taken on this large debt to expand. But that's when the good stuff happens. When you go outside your comfort zone with a plan, not just taking crazy risks, but you have a plan. That's when you make the progress. So
Very well said.
with Drive, or anyone that's wearing all the hats and they're doing all the work, stop it and just get involved with the process and commit to the process and make the changes. Yeah, you're going to be outside your comfort zone for a few years. Get used to it. That's where the changes happen.
Yep, the rewards are there.
Very
Very
good.
well said. Hey, Tony, I think we have a station break coming up.
We do. Next Friday, April 26th, we're going to have special guest, Rich Willis. So we're doing the Rich Week. We're doing the Rich Month. Every Friday, it's going to be another Rich. No, Rich Willis of Drive Diagnostics in Grand Junction, Colorado, will be with us. I also want to remind everybody that we do have an expo coming up in June, and Rich had been talking about the awards dinner. This year, we're going to have our awards dinner on June 20th. That's a Thursday night. And then we always have a beautiful party. And I'm sure Rich can attest to the parties we throw at our expos. And that'll be on Wednesday night, the 19th. So Wednesday, the 19th is the party. Thursday, the 20th is the awards dinner, where the people who have received Master Elite, and we also give away the awards for the other certifications as well. And there's a couple of other awards we're going to give away too. You'll hear more about, but that happens on Thursday, June 20th. And there's the commercial break.
All right. Well, Rich, I want to thank you so much for being with us. Larry, great seeing you. I wish everybody who's listening, by the way, in the chat was Rich's acceptance speeches from his awards dinners. If you had a chance to listen to that, they're very inspiring, and I advise you to do it. So I wish you all a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next Drive Facebook Live.
Cool.
So long.
Thanks, guys.